I never thought an ordinary Tuesday afternoon would change the way I looked at my quiet suburban street forever. My name is Emily Carter, and until that day, I thought I knew everything there was to know about the people living around me. Safe homes, friendly smiles, backyard barbecues in the summer. That was the rhythm of our neighborhood. Nothing seemed out of place. But then there was Ryan. Ryan was my neighbor's son, 17 years old, tall and lanky with an awkward smile that never quite reached his eyes. His parents, Daniel and Linda, had moved in across the street about 5 years ago, and though we waved to each other often, I never really had much interaction with Ryan. He always seemed distant, polite but guarded. That Tuesday, the school bus had already dropped off the neighborhood kids, and I was sitting on the front porch sipping iced tea, scrolling on my phone, when I noticed Ryan walking slowly down the street. He looked lost in thought, his backpack slung carelessly over one shoulder. Then, to my surprise, he crossed the street and walked up my driveway. "Hey, Mrs. Carter," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Hi, Ryan," I replied, setting my glass down. "Everything okay?" He shifted nervously, glancing over his shoulder as though making sure no one had followed him. Then, without waiting for me to invite him, he sat down on the porch steps beside me. And that's when everything began. At first, I thought maybe he just needed someone to talk to. Teenagers can be complicated, and sometimes it's easier to confide in a neighbor than your own parents. I smiled reassuringly. "Rough day at school?" I asked. He shook his head. "It's not school. It's something else." His hands tightened around the straps of his backpack. I don't know who else to tell. Something in his tone made me straighten. There was a tremor there. Fear, maybe, or desperation. "Ryan," I said gently, "you can tell me. Whatever it is, I'll listen." For a moment he didn't speak. He just stared at the sidewalk, jaw clenched, as if fighting an internal battle. Then, finally, he exhaled sharply and turned to me. "I found something," he whispered, "and I think it's dangerous." My heart skipped. Dangerous? What could a 17-year-old possibly mean by that? I tried to keep my expression calm, not wanting to alarm him. "What do you mean by dangerous?" I asked carefully. He glanced around again, lowering his voice even further. "In my dad's garage. I wasn't supposed to see it, but I did. And now I don't know what to do." The way he said it sent a chill through me. Daniel, his father, always seemed like an ordinary man, quiet, hardworking, the kind who mowed the lawn every Saturday morning. What could possibly be in his garage that frightened his own son? I wanted to press him for details, but before I could, Ryan stood abruptly. "I can't talk here. Can I come inside for a bit?" Something in his eyes, pleading, almost panicked, made me nod. Of course. We stepped inside my house, and he immediately sat at the kitchen table, tapping his fingers nervously on the wood surface. "Ryan," I said softly, sitting across from him, "you're safe here. Just tell me what you saw." He hesitated, then leaned closer. It was a box, locked up. But I saw inside, because the lock wasn't fastened right. He swallowed hard. It was full of documents, photos, things with names and numbers. I don't know what they mean, but some of it looked official, like government stuff. And there were pictures of people, strangers. Some of them looked like they didn't even know the photo was being taken. A shiver ran through me. That was not what I expected. "Did you tell your parents?" I asked. He shook his head quickly. "No. If my dad finds out I went through his things, I don't know what he'd do." His voice cracked slightly. "Please, Mrs. Carter, you can't tell anyone I told you." I sat back, my mind racing. Maybe he was overreacting. Teenagers sometimes misinterpret things they see. Maybe his father worked in something confidential. But the fear on Ryan's face was real. "Ryan," I said gently, "you need to be careful. But if what you saw is really what you think it is, we can't just ignore it either." He looked at me, eyes wide. "So what do I do?" That was the moment I realized my ordinary life had just collided with something far more complicated. I couldn't dismiss his fear, but I also couldn't accuse my neighbor of something without proof. First, I told Ryan, You need to promise me you won't go looking through that box again. If it's as serious as you think, you could get hurt." He nodded reluctantly. "Second," I added, "you're not alone in this. I'll help you figure out what to do next. But we need to be smart." Ryan finally relaxed a little, his shoulders slumping. "Thank you," he whispered. I offered him a reassuring smile, but deep down, unease twisted in my stomach. Because what Ryan had just told me, what he had stumbled into, was only the beginning. And what happened next would truly shock me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, replaying Ryan's words in my head. A hidden box, government papers, photos of strangers. It sounded like something out of a thriller movie, not my quiet suburban neighborhood. But Ryan wasn't the kind of kid who made up stories. If anything, he was painfully honest. The next morning, I peeked out the window as Daniel left for work, carrying his usual briefcase, dressed in his neat gray suit. He looked ordinary, normal, but now every detail seemed suspicious. When I saw Ryan again later that afternoon, he looked even more anxious. "He moved the box," he said quietly. "It's not in the garage anymore." I think he realized I saw it. A chill swept over me. "Ryan," I whispered, "we need to be very careful from here on out." He nodded, and for the first time, I realized the weight of responsibility I had just taken on. Because this wasn't just about curiosity anymore. This was about secrets. And some secrets are dangerous enough to change everything.